Kia kotahi te hoi o te waka kia ki uta, ko te ui maki hoi ki ia, e pehe te uta e karanga mai nei. Welcome to Mata with me, Mihingarangi Forbes, brought to you by the Māngai, Pāho and the Public Interest Journalism Fund. This week we'll be talking coalition deals, treaty referendums and policy pandemonium. So joining me to paddle the political waters is Whakaata Māori whakatau presenter and former political editor Tina Wickliffe and Victoria University scientist Dr. Lara Greaves. Tēnā kōrua.
Kia ora.
Hoi anō ka whakarewa hea te waka kōrero ki Tāmaki Makaurau nei. Late last week, Auckland Council, home to the largest population of Māori on earth, voted against a proposal to establish Māori wards. Its aims was to provide a voice for Māori at the council table. The motion was lost by just 2 votes and is out of step with councils around the motu. In Waikato, 9 councils have introduced Māori seats, including the Hauraki District Council just days ago. Earlier today, I spoke to Auckland councillors Kerrin, Leoni and Filipaina, who led the charge for Māori wards. Kia tahuri ake tātou. In the end, the vote went 11-9 against and Mayor Wayne Brown abstaining. Alf, now that you've had time to reflect, are you madder or sadder, or are you okay with it?
No, I'm madder. Pissed off, basically.
Yeah.
Because, interesting, the people that voted against it, before they voted against it, said, I support Māori wards, but we need a lot more work. How many years do we have to wait? It's been 6 already. So, no, I was pissed off it happened, but like my late mother said, go with the flow, son. But, you know, we're going to see what happens.
What about you, Kerrin? Because you did a lot of work to try and get numbers on your side. How do you feel about the numbers?
I'm disappointed, just like Alf. I think it's more disappointing to know that the 2 wards that actually have got a high Māori population, which is West Auckland and South Auckland, their councillors didn't vote in support. Well, Daniel Newman and unfortunately Ken Turner. So it's when we see the population numbers there, they should reflect along with the local boards because they all supported that we have Māori wards in place. So yeah, definitely disappointing.
The consultation showed the general public's opposition was 68%. That was made up of mainly individuals. Alf, you know, should the majority get to make the decision for the minority?
Well, no, that's why the Honourable Nanaia Mahuta and ngā mihi ki a koe tū Nanaia when she got rid of the referendum. And no, but interesting, the majority on the 2nd of October, the majority of Māori organisations and mana whenua had a lot more people behind their submission than those individual that said no.
That's right.
But those councillors chose to look at the organisations and the mana whenua as one submission. But they chose that because they knew to try and justify it.
You said that prior to the vote, you know, you had councillors coming up and saying that they supported it. What do you think the opposition to it was in the end?
Oh, what do you say about that, Alf? Because I think there was a lot. There was a lot in there,
What did they say in their opposition?
Oh, they said, look, we need more time. Look, the majority of the people, they were against it. Well, you have a look at that submission. Waipareira, Te Akatai Waiuhua, Hoani Waititi, Rua Pōtaka Marae. You have a look at all our whānau behind those organisations and mana whenua, outnumbered those individuals that said no. So they just wanted to pick and choose. That's all they wanted to try and justify their decision, which was a wrong decision, but it was theirs.
Why are they scared of sharing power, do you think, Kerrin?
I think that there's some councillors that have just held these seats for a very long time, and I think that for some people it's a lifetime career. They don't want to give up having that power and passing that over and looking at progressive ways to actually bring in new councillors, which this could have been the opportunity to have a strong Māori voice at the table. But unfortunately, we do need to look at getting new people standing in local government politics, more young people, more Māori representation. So that's what we need to do going forward.
More reflective of the community. One thing is that the Mayor didn't vote, Wayne Brown. Should he have, and why didn't he?
Well, he should have at least drew a line in the sand because he is the Mayor of Tāmaki Makaurau. He should have, and I always wonder, what if he ended up supporting it because my understanding was that he had no issue with Māori wards. If he had said something to support it, I wonder if he would have changed one of those that voted against it, and then we would have won it 11-10.
So you're disappointed in the Mayor?
Oh, look, definitely, and he knows that, because he should have put the line in the sand.
What do we have now? So what's left and who represents Māori now? Can you talk us through that?
So we have got up until around, I think it's the 26th of November, in terms of our time frame. So it has to be 2 years before the next election that we have the vote if we are going to change things. So basically we've got a month to look at lobbying 2 councillors if we want to make that change.
But for now we have the Independent Māori Statutory Board.
That's right.
How does that work and how does that represent Māori?
So we've got our mana whenua or iwi of Tāmaki Makaurau on there, and I know that again a number of councillors said, well, we've already got Māori representation. But the issue with that again is that the mātā waka that are chosen on that, we need to have another process as well, how we can select those people that are mātā waka that's a little bit more open. So I think there's a number of things that have to be reviewed with the IMSB as well.
How would the new legislation have worked? Is it mana whenua or is it specific groups of Māori?
Yeah, and that's been a really big point of contention at Auckland Council. We know that obviously that the iwi have increased over the years through the layers of interest, and I think, again, that's something that we have to work on going forward. And I think Alpha's probably got some comments on that.
Had the Māori wards have worked, how would it have worked?
Well, we would have had a voice around the governing body table, which we don't have, a mandated voice.
So it would have been someone from that community that represents that community who...
Definitely, because he or she, that Māori councillor, would have been elected by those on the Māori roll. So they would have the mandate. I, myself, and Councillor Richard Hills, he's whakapapa tū Ngāpuhi, we don't have the mandate because we got elected by our ward. So we don't have the mandate. So that would have changed. We would have had a mandate for he or she to speak on behalf of Māori. The Independent Māori Statutory Board, it's interesting that Rodney Hyde put them in place, but it's the accountability measure around the Te Tiritia Waitangi is why they're there. You know, not for the voice that we would have if we had a Māori ward.
If you did have a Māori ward, if you were able to flip those seats in the next couple of months, would those seats, would the people who stood for them have to be tangata whenua, or could they be rāwa, or could they be Māori from outside of Tāmaki? Yeah,
it could be a Māori person who wishes to stand in the Māori ward.
So any Māori?
Yeah, any Māori, and that would allow at least one representative. And for me, we just lost the chance for 2025. Kerrin's correct around the next month, but the only way we're going to get that vote in the next month is if the Mayor decides to have an extraordinary meeting before our statutory timeline, which is at, I think, the 23rd of November. If we don't get any, if we don't get another look in, we have to wait till 2028. Do
you know if mana whenua were okay with that decision that anyone could run in those seats as a Māori ward?
Some of them weren't. Yeah.
So that was up for, would that need to have been, can you talk us through it? Like, you know, who was opposed and what were the suggestions to make it?
Well, there were only 3 that responded, first of all, and we know that Ngāti Whātua Ōrākei, should we be putting this on camera, had actually said that they didn't want to take a position on it. But we know that there are issues around some iwi saying, why should that be a mātā waka person when it should be mana whenua? Because that's the whole point of having the Royal Commissioning model, because you'd have your 2 mātā waka seats and then your 1 appointed seat which would come from mana whenua.
Right. What kind of changes could we have expected had we have had Māori wards?
Representation. Definitely representation.
What's the difference?
So
for example, you're a councillor, but you're voted in by the general public. What would have changed for you had you have been the Māori ward?
Well, for me, if I'd been in the Māori ward, I would then stand up and say, I have your mandate. I have your mandate as mana whenua, even though it's a wee bit dicey with that. I still have the mandate from Māori to end up speaking on behalf, especially with the 4 well-beings.
For the issues in that community.
Definitely. For that ward, for Māori, for the whole of Tāmaki Makaurau. big job, but at least I know there would be at least 9 other councillors currently that would be supporting that person, he or she.
As a Māori who's a councillor now, are you able, do you have enough time to do that for Māori, or do you have is your commitment to the people that you represent?
Yeah, I think first and foremost the commitment is to all Aucklanders, because we are voted in on that, but also from our wards. So we're accountable to our wards. I obviously hold the Māori Outcomes portfolio, but I'm always aware that if I just focus on Māori issues, then that impacts on how I'm seen in the community. So I think if we did have a Māori councillor, it would just totally change things, I think, for Tāmaki Makaurau. It'd be great. You'd get more Māori voting, more young people into local government politics. I think so many Māori are just disengaged.
Do you think that the Auckland Council delivered the message, the discussion well enough?
I've definitely had some feedback that we could have done better on that. I had a number of phone calls, but we know that the team definitely tried to do the best that they could by having a hui out at Hawani Waititi Marae and out at Papakura. On reflection, yes, there's more that we could have done, and I think if we do consultation in the future, we'll take that on board.
Tēnā kōrua, thank you for your time today. All the best. Kia ora.
Kia ora.
Kia ora.
Ka te hei arohai ngā taki o te wā, kia tawhiri ake tātou nei ki ngā mātanga tōranga pūnei, kia Tina Wickliffe, rawa ko tākuta Lara Greaves. Tēnā kōrua.
Kia ora.
Tāmaki Makaurau, home of Pacifica, Polyfest, I've got Waipareta out west, you've got dozens and dozens of marae around Tāmaki working marae. Are we out of step?
Yeah. yeah. It's as someone who calls Tāmaki Makaurau home, Central Auckland, yay, and have grown up here, as mātāwaka. It's like we don't have Māori wards, and other places are getting Māori wards, and as a political scientist, every time we have a local body election, I swear, I don't even have to do that much preparation, because right afterwards people come to me and they're like, why haven't people voted in local government elections? Why are people so disengaged? Why are Māori so disengaged? Why are young people so disengaged? And it's because local government structures, they need something, they need some kind of revamp. And I think having Māori ward councillors, as those two who talked about before, is that you then have those people who that is their role, that is their clear role. They know when they get up every day, I'm here to represent Māori. And there's a further debate to have around whether it's mana whenua or what the exact details of who they're representing, but they're dedicated. They don't have to be that person in that general seat. They are there to represent Māori, and that's their role. And then they can make those relationships, the relationships with young people, the relationships across the community that need to be made. They've got that time.
Someone who has 5 Māori ward councillors in her rohi, Tina Wickliffe. Welcome to the show, Tina.
Kia ora, it's good to be here.
Yeah, he painga mo te iwi?
Well, accountability, visibility, and accessibility. That's what we expect from our 5 Māori councillors. They are well known and have a high profile in the community. They represent tapu and iwi from Tūranga all the way to the most eastern corner of Ngāti Porou, Wharekahika. That's our whanaunga ani up there. It's quite concerning that Tāmaki Makaurau is so out of step with the provinces.
Yeah. Do you think it's because you had good leadership to get to those Māori seats in the first place? Do we need?
It's a combination of both. Plus, you must remember in our district, Māori make up now 53% of the population. Yes. We are ratepayers, we are home owners, and we're unapologetic. We also don't want meek representation at the council table. So there's a lot of expectation on our Māori ward councillors, and they hear it every time they turn up to an event, a kaupapa Māori event. Previous councillors with whakapapa Māori, they haven't represented us as well as
they haven't had the opportunity.
That the Māori ward councillors will. Except for, may I say, maybe Atareta Puananga and Manukeri.
Is there a chance for Tāmaki Makaurau? Could they catch up, or do you think this opportunity is gone for the next 5 years?
I think potentially it's gone for a bit. I mean, the pushback hasn't been maybe intense enough. I'm seeing some media come through, like on Mata today, but you're seeing a little bit of media pushback, but a little bit of content in the media around pushback, but not enough to maybe have that onslaught of angry submissions or that kind of flax roots type campaign that would make that decision change by November. And then, of course, if you look at the general politics and the way that, say the general election went, is the vibe right for a revisit there? I'm not sure if the whole overall vibe's right for a revisit of that decision.
Is it good enough for the mayor, the leader of the Auckland Council, to abstain?
I think that is like really, that's so fence-sitting to do that. I can see why you would want to abstain though. Like, I mean, I see why there's arguments for why you would want to sit on the fence, but then again,
He should have voted?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why didn't you vote, Wayne Brown?
Next time.
I think we know.
Yeah.
Let's talk about special votes. This week, the results of the special votes will be announced. What are you expecting to see or hear?
Well, I'm waiting with bated breath to see what happens with Tāmaki Makaurau and Te Tai Tukiro, how the Māori Party will fare. You always hear political pundits saying that the specials normally work out well for those on the left. So, will their party vote rise considerably? Te Pāti Māori I'm talking about. And those two seats that are on a knife edge.
Yeah.
Tāmaki Makaurau and Te Tai Tukiro.
What's your inner matakite saying?
I don't want to say, lots of people were asking me to call Ikoroa Rāwhiti, for example. I'm so glad I didn't.
Yeah.
Because Kushna just stormed home. But be interesting to see if Mecca, mops up any more votes when the specials are counted. I was out of town
it's quite
when...
she needs quite a lot to catch up.
She does,
But in Tāmaki Makaurau and Te Tai Tukiro, do you think there's a possibility? You wouldn't be saying it otherwise.
I think so.
Yeah.
Well, they're definitely two seats to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got out a spreadsheet. I didn't rely on any
She
kind
did
of
the
mathematics. I got out Excel, but it was only Excel. It wasn't any funky like R or anything. But I sat there
and
and tried to
mathematician?
do a few different little projections, and it could get quite close. It could get within that couple of hundred votes. Where I can see as well, if you look at, say, the candidate informals versus the party vote informals as it stands, and all the complaints that people were making around going to vote and all of that, I can see situations where we do see court action in a recount. Like, I can just see it getting that close.
Really? I guess you can't, in the Māori seats, you can't really rely on the party vote because Māori are so strategic, right?
Well, I think if you look at the party vote last time, Te Pāti Māori went from 23,000 party votes on election night to 33,000 on the specials, which indicates that their party vote will go up. Now, the one thing to watch, of course, if they do win Tāmaki Makaurau, Te Tai Tukiro, the other thing to watch is how their party vote increases proportionately. So that overhang seat that they currently have might go based on the party vote. So it's not just looking at those seats and the overhang, it's looking at how much their party vote then entitles them to.
Yes.
So it's ratios. That's why I got Excel out.
Far out.
Ko te pātai nui, is this good for Winston or not if that happens?
Winston Peters. Where to begin with that guy?
Yeah, I mean, but if it does fall left, what happens there? I mean, he is in a pretty...
Chris Hipkins has ruled him out. He's ruled out Chris Hipkins. Is Chris Hipkins actually going to be how much longer is he going to be
but National
leader of Labour?
National will need him more.
National will need him more.
So it's probably a good position for him if it's
They need him
left.
to stop tweeting immediately.
Yeah, tell us about that. What are your thoughts about the way he was tweeting in the last week or so?
I think he's just pandering to and rewarding
To who?
a constituency that voted him in, the conspiracy theorists and the anti-vax nutters.
Was it harmful?
Well, I think we've got this, there's a special place in our collective hearts for Winston Peters, for Mātua Winston, and he keeps it interesting. Yeah. Was it harmful overall? Well, yeah, I don't know a lot of that stuff. And I just the moment that you do start to think that you know politics, that you know Māori politics, but you know general politics, you kind of always get proven wrong by Winston Peters. Like the number of us that bet on him not coming back, and here he is. It's like, what?
I don't mean to sound so dismissive because there were certainly during the whole, with the mandates, people who have genuine grievances, and he's playing to them. And he's also playing to his bread and butter constituency, which is the 65 plus.
Yes. Do you think he hurts his own credibility, Winston? Because, he knows who to play to, and this time round, do you think it's hurting his credibility?
Credibility. Well, here's the thing with Winston Peters, the the iwi kiwi thing, he did it first, Winston Peters. One law for all, Winston did it first. Shane Jones is the new John Ansell. Remember putting the K back in the iwi?
Yes.
That John Ansell did that first for the 2005 campaign, was it?
2005, yes.
Don Brash.
And now you have Shane Jones putting...
That's been their line, Mai Rā no, New Zealand first. So imagine if his constituents found out that he maybe has done things that have benefited Indigenous Māori like myself, for example, the handback of Hikurangi Maunga. He might have lost some votes if they knew that.
Yeah, how different is it when we look at, it's been 3 weeks of kind of silence, really. We've had all of this political news and then, boom, nothing. When you do
It's been great.
when you do
Relaxing.
when you see Christopher Luxon every now and then pop up, how do you rate his performance as an incoming Prime Minister and what he's dealing with now?
Yeah, it's one of those things that it's like too soon to say, but I think that I haven't seen, like, there's the odd complaint around the place of, they need to be getting to it, but most people are quite relaxed, like relaxed, like, okay, we're having a break now, we've been focusing on the rugby or whatever else. I think in terms of Luxon, he does have some challenges, so I also got stuck into the New Zealand election study, went back through the years and looked at the popularity of incoming leaders.
Yes.
And I know people are critical of, do leaders really need to be liked? Yes. They do need to be liked. It's like a fundamental in politics. It always has been, and it is now. Yeah. But his rating on, say, Vote Compass would put him among the lowest, lower than even when Helen Clark came in as Prime Minister and was thought of as not popular. So that's going to be a challenge.
Added to that is a whole lot of policies that might not be popular with some, and you're juggling three parties' wants, moi moia.
Yeah.
What do you think is going to happen for some of the ones that are really going to affect Māori, like the referendum of Te Tiriti and others?
Well, first of all, they're not going to negotiate these things through the media. So until those specials are counted, he's going to act, Christopher Luxon is going to continue to act like a CEO of the country rather than a prime ministerial.
Right approach?
Well, as I say, he doesn't want to give oxygen to Winston Peters in his Twitter account, which is what people are asking about. But to answer your question around portfolios, I think we can expect a lot of brown bureaucrats will be looking for some new jobs.
So you're picking up on what Tama Pōtaka might have said in the past, and there's a suggestion that Te Māngai Pāho, Te Mātāwai, Te Arawhiti even might roll into TPK. Do you think that's a possibility?
Yes, I do.
And what will that mean?
It will mean efficiencies in terms of, the government and fiscal policy. It's fiscal policy. It's a right-wing government. So these will be the priorities. Fiscal diligence and no spending, no wasteful spending, and ACT will be there to ensure that kaupapa stays on track.
What do you think are some of the kaupapa that might fall out of the bottom of that if they rolled it into one massive mega kāwanatanga?
Yeah, I think it's just that consistent restructuring of the public service. I'm with you on that I think that that is quite the possibility that we'll see some kind of cuts and reorganising. And then we know what happens. They just contract all of the public servants back for more money. Like that's fundamentally what ends up happening each time. Devolution and like relabelling Māori communities as communities or whatever, that sort of thing. So yeah, I think there will be some developments there. In terms of the treaty principles referendum, I just can't see it happening. Like I think it's an outside chance it would, but just having studied the Voice to Parliament in Australia that's just happened and just seeing like what that did there and the damage that it could potentially do to National's brand going forward. I mean, if you look at that demographic wave of like Māori kids ageing into voting every day, Pacifica kids, kids from all sorts of other different communities ageing in, and the younger generation, like Generation Alpha, they're just like very like Generation like Z, like they're like the youngins now,
what
but
age
let
are we
alone the
talking?
babies.
Who's Alpha?
They're unapologetically like this is like I've got a 5-year-old, and they are just like. You know, the amount of te reo they have just in like general school, like they're so into it. So I just think they're going to vote one day.
I think it's very dangerous for social cohesion, and I actually agree. I'm not sure that we'll see the light. This referendum will see the light of day.
What are some of the areas you're going to be looking out for?
It's something that they took to the election. That they campaigned on. So let's see what happens.
Are there any areas that you're going to be keeping a careful eye on?
Oh well, who gets Māori Māori development.
Any ideas?
I expect it would be Mr. Tāmaki. One observation about him though, he's always been like that. Yeah, I've known him since he was in law school. He's always been very fixated on self-responsibility. He's the perfect pin-up child for national.
How do you
as
think
a national Māori MP.
How will he deal with iwi?
He's already talking about things like max kāwanatanga. Maybe iwi will like that because iwi don't necessarily want more kāwanatanga in their lives. They want rangatiratanga and mana motuhake. So I think that we're just going to have to get used to a language and change.
Yes.
Semantics.
Any other Māori that you see might be fitting and rolling into some of those big jobs?
Yeah, well, Dan Boudoir's come back in Northcote, and so like he was out for the last term, but he's been experienced before as an MP, so he might be another Māori that might be lined up for a ministerial portfolio.
And Dr. Shane Duty.
Yeah, Dr.
Kerrin Shaw.
We always forget about Dr. Shane.
Kerrin Shaw.
Well, David Seymour.
David Seymour, Kerrin Shaw.
Yeah, and the whole
possibility.
Tāmaki as well, like within ACT as well. So, but from Māori within national, which is a different place to be, and it's going to be really interesting to see how Tama Pōtaka and others do reposition the language within national, and just having looked over successive national governments, the way that they do reposition language around community responsibility, people taking responsibility for their own people and that kind of idea, but also kind of diluting some of the te tiriti framing within like, oh, we're all just communities, rather than, say, rangatiratanga.
So after the third, how long do you think we're going to wait? With your matakiti hand on the camp. 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 1 week?
Winston Peters is going to jostle for maybe 2 weeks.
2 weeks, you reckon too?
Well, I think if I had done a spreadsheet, which I haven't, it would have been quite long, like maybe Christmas decorations. But Mātua Winston's come out and said that it's going to be quite quick. He would like it to be quick.
Ka pai.
So maybe. I think he likes to
2
always
weeks
prove
over
us
here.
wrong.
2 weeks, you think it might be one?
I don't know. He always just wants to prove us wrong. I'm not ever going to predict anything about Winston Peters
No one should
again. Ever again. I've learnt my lesson.
Tēnā kōrua.
Tika tāu.
Kia ora. Ko ngā ararau, kei mua I te ihu o tō tātou waka, he kauere, he marino rānei kei ngā paiwai o te moana, mā te ahu whakamua e mārama ai. Tēnā koutou katoa ngā pō I tō whakarewa o tēnei waka. Ka nui te mihi ki te puna whakatongarewa me te Māngai Pāho, nohoro mai.
Ko te reo, te take.